Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everybody to the 19th Annual Winchester Chamber of Commerce Outstanding Citizen of the Year Banquet. And at this time, I'd like to introduce for an invocation Father Victor Lavoie, who is pastor at St. Eulalia's Church. Father.
Thank you, John. And on this happy night, let us bow our heads and ask for the Lord's blessing. All good and gracious God, we ask you to please bless our coming together this evening as we join hands and hearts in celebration of achievement and accomplishment so well done. We ask you this night to bless Chad and his wonderful family for all the sacrifices they have made on behalf of this wonderful town of ours. We ask you, please, to bless this food to our use and continue to bless all of our lives in your service. We make our prayer in your name, you who live and reign, God, forever and ever. Amen.
Sorry, you can't say for that. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, what we're going to do this evening is because obviously Chad is a public figure, and public figures tend to draw political figures to his dinner, all of whom want to speak. We are going to start the speaking program very early, and we're going to continue it right through dinner. So if you don't have an appetite right now, you soon will. And I just ask you, if you could, to when someone is speaking, we've told the caterers not to worry, to continue to serve, and they won't be interrupting us, but that way we can keep right on moving. And to open things off, and please feel free, like Judy Muger, and start eating your salad. I'd like to introduce at this time the man of the hour, Chad Mara. Thank you very much. Well, that's it, Chad. Let me introduce the rest of the Mara family. First of all, a personal favorite of mine, Regina. There will be no purgatory for Regina. For you Catholics, St. Peter will be waving her on. And next, somebody that I think a lot of you know, Chad's son, I know well as a practicing architect, Andy Mara, and his wife, Nicole. And then Chad's sister, Lynn Cobb. Where's Lynn Cobb? Daughter, I'm sorry. Hey, what do you expect? And her husband, Adam. And they have a young baby, Tyler, I believe, who is not here this evening. And then somebody who is very important to the town of Winchester, and that's Chad's mother, Nan. Most of us really know Nan already, if not in person, by reputation, because Chad's father planted several hundred rhododendrons down in their hometown. And when he died a couple of years ago, his mother wanted to donate those rhododendrons to a good cause. And if you look around the town of Winchester, particularly at the new library, and see those beautiful white fully grown rhododendrons. And also in various other spots in the town, Nan has donated over 200 of those to the town of Winchester. Thank you very much. Chad followed the Uniform Procurement Act during that. And next, I believe that Chad's aunt is here. Natalie Mora, is it? Natalie Mora. Now, Natalie has a Winchester connection, too. She worked with two well-known Winchester citizens up at W.R. Grace. One of them was Brad Ross's father, and she also worked for many years with a friend of many of us, Bob Erickson. That in itself you should get a dinner for. I said that because I didn't think Bob was here tonight. Yeah. Next, we have Chad's brother, Greg, and his guest, Tricia. And next, Regina's brother and his wife, Pat, Conrad Rogowski. This is the only way we could sell out the hall, was to get the relatives in here. Now, the next group at the same table is a very sensitive group, so I'd ask you to, I went over and introduced myself, and I said, you folks here for Chad, and you're from Marshfield, right, the former selectman of Marshfield? They all said unanimously, no, not Marshfield, Mansfield. Don't you know what the difference is? And I said, yeah, one's got lights. So the first one is Dennis, is it, no, I'm sorry, Ken Parsons and his wife Nancy. And then we have also John Dunn and his wife Carol. And let's see, and then we have a friend of Chad's, Pat Boulay, representing another segment of the family. Thank you, Pat. And then Dave Grant and his wife Janet, also from Mansfield. And Dave advised me that he was on the planning board, and he was the one who originally hired Chad. He didn't get elected the second term. There is one other individual here, and I haven't yet seen him myself, but I understand he's here. Is Bob Marini here? Bob Marini. Bob Marini actually is, well, not really a friend of mine. I knew him professionally. He was with a competitor. But Bob is a very well-known individual in Boston. He's the chairman of Camp Dresser McKee in Boston, and he's also the chairman of the Massachusetts Business Roundtable. And Bob's association with Chad began many, many years ago when he was a young project engineer, and he worked with Chad on a project down in Mansfield. And Chad, you did him well. He did okay. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to introduce a former selectman, former chairman of the Board of Selectmen, to give you a little talk on how Chad first came to Winchester. And I recognize at this time Mr. Peter Van Aken.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, John asked me to come out and warm up the crowd. John, this crowd has been warming up since noon yesterday. We had a recommendation that we probably should have an open bar at this affair. Kathy Alexander, who is running this event for the Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much, Kathy. She told me that we couldn't have an open bar because she'd already exceeded her budget, giving... Good timing. You come out with a crook next, right? Said that she'd exceeded her budget giving away free tickets in order to have a respectable showing to this event. Actually, the thing that really put us over the top, and I have to thank Carolyn Ward for this, was that she came up with the idea that anyone that bought 2 tickets gets a free dump sticker at the transfer station. Thank you, Carolyn. But this is a really nice crowd. It's good to see you all here tonight. We're here this evening to share in some of the lesser-known aspects of Chad Morra's public service to Winchester, and in many cases to set the record straight. In this spirit, I thought it would be a public service to research how Chad came to Winchester. I have managed to track down and speak with a number of persons in Mansfield, Massachusetts, where Chad served as the planning director and town manager before he came to Winchester. I should tell you that most of them spoke only on condition of anonymity. Did you know, for example, that when Chad was in Mansfield, he built a sewage treatment plant in Norton? Norton, a neighboring community. How's that for being neighborly? Chad has given NIMBY a richer meaning. I understand that Norton is at a higher elevation than Mansfield. Now here's a town manager that can make it flow uphill and end up in another community as well. No wonder the search committee was impressed. Old habits die hard. It should come as no surprise that when Morra came here and built a water treatment plant, he put it in Medford. Steve Powers tells me that the MWRA has approached Chad to see if he can, in fact, apply his skills to relocate the Deer Island outflow pipe in New Hampshire. I did unearth some documents that came from the search committee files, which brought Chad forward as one of their 3 candidates. I'm not sure that any of you or all of you remember the makeup of the search committee, so I'm going to name them now in case you might want to give them a piece of your mind later. The search committee for Chad Morra, for the town manager, which brought forth Mr. Morra, included Sherman Saltmarsh, Frank Golden, Frank Sopper, Neil Hart, Sarah Sincata, Harry Sheffalo, of course, Harry Sheffalo, right? Dick Malcolm, and David Donahue as chairman. The real surprise is that some of them are with us tonight. This committee received about 110 applications for town manager. I've often wondered how Chad made it to the final round. But I think now, based on the research that I conducted, that the search committee was misled by some of the letters of recommendation that I've found. For example, there are several positively glowing letters in the old search committee file, which I think were not entirely truthful. This is especially true of the letters from 4 former selectmen with whom Chad worked, named David May, Norman Mahana, John McNair, and Frank Chico Colella. Now, folks, you'll have to bear with me. The Mansfield people know these folks. They worked with Chad very closely. I asked one of the members of the search committee why they relied only on former selectmen's recommendations, and they said, well, you see, the current selectman in Mansfield hadn't been in office very long after the recall elections, so they didn't know Chad very well. Back to the letters. One former selectman from Mansfield said, I highly recommend Chad for a position in your town north of Boston, or even beyond. Another letter said that Chad has excellent relations with the police, especially the chief. The most interesting one was Mr. Colella's letter, which included a P.S., and it said, if it will help in your decision, we will cover his moving expenses. The real blame, though, ladies and gentlemen, has to be laid at the feet of the members of the Board of Selectmen who appointed Mr. Mara. Mr. Welch, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Sirocco, Mr. O'Connell, and Chairman Lombardi. Later in the evening's program, I understand Mr. O'Connell will rise to attempt to offer a defense of their actions. Good luck, Ed. I noticed in the minutes of the meeting that Mr. Mara was appointed, Mr. O'Connell said that he believed the board wanted someone to stand up to the board and tell them when they were wrong. Ed, you certainly succeeded in that objective. But it's worth noting, Mr. O'Connell, that you left the board before Mr. Mara took office. Perhaps you knew something we didn't. In the same minutes of appointment, Mr. Welch noted that Mr. Mara understands budgets, he understands Proposition 2.5, and he understands user fees. Good call, Mr. Welch. Chad certainly understands user fees. Now, if he can get his current board to understand user fees, he'll be all set. Chad, that's okay. I don't have to go to work with him tomorrow. Some of you do. Chad and I started public service in Winchester at about the same time. The 1987 capital budget preparation brought us together. And I was really delighted for a while to learn of Chad's background in planning, especially long-range planning, until I discovered that for Chad, long-range meant after the next election. I didn't want to end tonight without indicating I have a concern about Chad's tendency to sell his services to the highest bidder from time to time. Now, I can tell you from personal knowledge that at least one time he sold his services to 3 women, 3 married women, 2 of whom are here tonight, Mrs. Hurlbut and Mrs. Swiger. The third lady was my wife. Now, Chad defends his actions in this regard by saying it was all for charity. It was all for the recreation department. Lee Evans, I'll bet this isn't in your current brochure. Reggie, I don't know what Chad told you about this, but he told me he was doing impersonations of town meeting members. Sure, right, okay, Chad. One of Chad's colleagues asked me, made me promise not to say anything about Chad's computer skills tonight. Not that it would have taken very long. Ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that this brief revised history has been useful in setting the stage for the remainder of tonight's program. And Chad, if you think the going is going to get easier, get real. Bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Peter, and I appreciate you meeting the criteria of sticking to 2 minutes so that everybody can follow your lead. Next, we have a surprise guest who I have not yet seen, but is identified as an old friend. Is he here? Ah, yes. Looks like a beach bum from L.A. I don't think you can disguise Tom Schmidt.
It seems everybody turns to history to talk about Chad. I did the same thing. Now, I'm not in a league with Mike Sirocco or Dan Chain when it comes to history, but I did keep all the memos that Chad wrote to the Board of Selectmen while I was on the board. I went back through them over the past couple of weeks and picked out a few choice ones that I thought I would share with you. These are ideas that Chad had about town operations that didn't see the light of day. I think it's important to share them with you here tonight. Peter mentioned the transfer station. This is one that he wrote back in 1989. It says, as you asked, this is the Board of Selectmen. As you asked, I had Mark Toogood run some numbers to determine how much we would need to charge so the transfer station could be operated on a pay-as-you-go basis. Having done that analysis, it occurred to me that so long as the board is contemplating a fee increase, we might as well convert the place to a profit center. Thus, I recommend increasing the annual transfer station assessment to $300 and adding the following amenities. Convert the trash pit into a spa and the conveyor into a water slide. Sell peddling permits to vendors who will sell flowers and mementos to those waiting in line to get rid of their trash. And during March, install a coffee and donut shop at the front gate. A year or two later, we entered into a sister city agreement with the city of Saint-Germain-en-Laye in France. And that week, as we were getting ready for the visitation of the mayor and the delegation, Chad sent us all this missive. With arrival this week of dignitaries from Saint-Germain-en-Laye, France, I've been thinking of gestures we as a board and management of Winchester might make to extend greetings. Since the delegation will be coming from Logan Airport in a van, someone will need to make sure the luggage is handled for the guests. I think it would be appropriate if the chairman, Mr. O'Leary, and I were to take care of the chore ourselves. Remember that? Not only would that facilitate transfers, it would also show an appropriate feeling of goodwill that we want to convey. P.S. The French word for luggage is bagage. Chad actually did muscle the bags of the mayor around all weekend. Woburn Loop. That was a good one. This was in the early 90s. Since we've not had many proposals to purchase the Woburn Loop in the last year or two, it occurred to me that one option would be to offer an entire segment to a buyer who might use the parcel as a whole. One such idea that came to mind was for a parcel running between Skillings Road and Swanton Street. An ideal use for that land would be a drag strip. The synergy between that use and the businesses seem obvious. Saltmarsh Agency would no doubt want to sell auto insurance. Police coverage would be no problem since we're right at White Hand Pantry. And we could use the Purity Supreme for parking. I can't do the town hall one. But there is one, this is 1988. I write to let you know the moderator contacted me yesterday regarding specifications for the town hall podium to be installed as a part of the town hall renovations. He would like the following: a spotlight on the stage area that is always on, illuminating the podium area and its occupant at all times. I'll let that one sink in a bit. A volume control that allows all microphone levels to be modified from the stage. And finally, a wet bar in the podium so recesses can be called a little less frequently. With your permission, I shall proceed. And finally, and this one is actually quite recent, and in fact, one of the current selectmen sent it to me so I could read it here tonight. It's a note from the board to the board from Chad about snow plowing. It says, having recently studied town policies regarding snow removal, I write to let you know that, effective immediately, I have directed that town vehicles provide plowing services on private roads, particularly those in condominium complexes. This decision, of course, has nothing to do with my recent relocation to White Horse Common, sometimes known as Jake's Place. You know, every so often we get to serve or work with somebody whose contribution to an organization needs to be described in superlatives. Having had the good fortune to be one of Chad's colleagues for a few years, the word that most often comes to my mind is dedication. And here are a few thoughts about that. You know, it never really mattered what time a meeting was called or how many there were. Chad was always there. I remember 6 a.m. sessions to see how the transfer station worked, or marathon bargaining talks that took us well after midnight. I even remember one evening after a selectmen's meeting climbing the town hall clock tower with Chad and Brad Ross to see if the mechanism was working properly in the cold. It was. When it comes to town business, there's no doubt who's minding the store. But Chad's dedication goes beyond town business. Who can forget his Winton Club appearances? I have two personal favorites. One is the Archie Bunker skit. That was a good one. The other one's the high school sock hop, where he played the shy, retiring teenage boy with his date off in the corner. Few of us remembered that from off stage. But more importantly, it was Chad who really encouraged the rest of us on the board to become involved in the Winton Club, and in so doing introduced us to a part of our community that many of us may never have met. And finally, Chad's support. Yes, I can. Thank you. Can you hear now? It's set for the gentleman off to my right. I'm sorry. And it's locked. There we go. Finally, there's Chad's support of town athletic teams. I don't recall ever having attended a football game that he wasn't there in the end zone, holding court and conducting town business. These are only a few of the examples I can offer, and in the interest of time and deference to others who want to say something here tonight, I'm going to stop. Chad, I'm proud to have been one of your selectmen. And to borrow a line from the industry in my new town, you're as good as it gets.
For those that may not know Tom Schmidt was a selectman in the town of Winchester for a few years. He was traded to a small town out in California for an old backhoe, and he's presently a vice president at Caltech. Thank you very much, Tom, and we appreciate you coming all the way in for this. Okay, next. Tom made a little comment about Chad's participation in the Winton Club. And many that know Chad know that Chad would have paid to participate in the Winton Club. And after seeing some of his performances, we're sure he did. And to pay tribute to him is a musical tribute at this time from the Winton Club group called the Tambos. Yeah, what do you want? Do you want that?
Just out of the way. Well, I'll talk here. Can I do this? Hello? Yeah. Hello, everybody, and hi, Chad. As you all probably, you may or you may not know, Winton Club is an organization devoted exclusively to the support of Winchester Hospital. Well, we are also devoted to Chad Moore. And we are here tonight not to roast, but to toast a man who's a citizen this year of Winchester, the Citizen of the Year. We're extremely grateful to Chad, who through the years has been an absolutely wonderful host to the cabaret, every year ensuring our success for Winchester Hospital. No matter what the problems, and we do have some from time to time, he has arranged, rearranged, he's made it work, and we thank you. And some of you do know, we also want to thank Chad for being a performer in our shows. He is quite a performer. His first appearance, he's been in the cabaret for years. His first appearance was the Winchester Town Hall Building Committee, who hit the boards as the good ship Lollipop Kids. Chad was Shirley Temple. He's played many roles since then, all of which have been most appreciated. Singing, dancing. He's been loved by the audience, by the cast and crew as well. We thank you. But, as a matter of fact, we'd like to sign you up right now for next January's show. The tryouts are December 7th. Be there, okay? Until then, we'd like a special only Winton Club kind of toast to Chad Moore, Citizen of the Year. Ta-da.
I bet they don't have that down in Marshfield or Mansfield. They're also up on waivers. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, let's see, that seems like a good act for maybe the Mansfield connection to follow. I'd like to call up at this time John Dunn, who was a former selectman of Mansfield. Oh my God, they may be as bad. Maybe you want to wait till after dinner. No.
Can't hear me now? I'm Chad's camping buddy. Chad will take you places you haven't been and don't want to go back to. Chad and I used to have a ritual right around Labor Day. We'd go up to a place called Crown Point, Vermont. How many people know where Perkinsville, Vermont is? Raise your hand. Chad, me too. Perkinsville knows where we are. We did have fairly organized trips, very well planned out. Everybody would bring the wood for the campfire. One of the things we used to do quite a bit is take bike rides. Right, Lynn? Andy? Yeah. We took a bike ride once. Now, just so that you know where Perkinsville is, it's about halfway up the state of Vermont, right near the New Hampshire border. What, about 15, 20 miles. We went out on this bike ride that must have lasted 8 or 9 hours. Half of it was uphill, Chad said. I think most of it was uphill. Well, about halfway through the trip, Chad had the kids convinced. Now, these kids were, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, maybe up to 9 years old, all 5 of them. He had them convinced we had reached Canada. And he pointed to a sign. And actually, I almost thought we were in Canada. This was the sign. Not knowing French, the kids were convinced until somebody broke down and told them. Now, one of our favorite things about camping was, and we did have it down to a science, was the campfire. And how soon is retirement, Chad? It's a long time. One evening we stayed up rather late talking around the campfire. How many people have spit scotch into the campfire? How many wives have seen their husbands spit scotch into the campfire? Now, just to kind of set the scene, it was probably, I think it was after midnight, I'm not sure. And one of us decided, what would it be like to spit scotch in the fire? I think I was one of the first. There's a big purple flame that rises. 1 o'clock in the morning, Chad is knocking on the camper door for Reggie. Reggie, you gotta come out and see this. Reggie's standard phrase, come in here, you fool. The next morning was even funnier. Remember the time we took a shower together, Chad? Separate stalls, separate stalls. I think it was the next morning, after the late hour by the campfire, Chad and I were walking over to the showers, and I guess a couple of the fellas that were kept awake that evening, or families that were kept awake that evening from our conversation, decided that they would follow us into the shower. By the time they got in there, Chad and I were each in our separate showers. Right, Chad? And they walked in pretending to shave, but they were really wanted to get the word to us that we kept them up late. And one says to the other, hey, did you see those guys? Did you listen to them? They kept us up all night. The other guy says to the other, yeah. Chad being quick on his feet, yeah, John, did you hear those guys? They kept me up real late. Our favorite thing was cooking. Every time we'd go someplace, we'd have to try to do something. And in Mansfield, there's a nice little meat market called Saro's Meat Market. If anybody wants to get a good piece of meat for friends that are coming over for dinner, they go to Saro's. Well, Tony and Ralph Saro run the meat market. And Chad and I came in, and they're knowing the way we are. They said, uh-oh, what are you boys up to? And Chad turns to Tony, he says, Tony, what we want hasn't been born yet. And he said, what's that? What are you going to do? He said, well, we're going to Normandy Farms. We want to cook a pig. And he says, no, you don't want to, he said it looked cute, but that's not going to be what you want to do. So Normandy Farms, in the springtime, we cooked the pig with the apple and painted the face and everything. And I said, well, now what are you going to do to top that, Chad? He said, well, Thanksgiving's coming up. So where do we go? We go off to Plymouth Rock KOA to cook a turkey over the open coals. Well, Chad, I have to say that we've had many, many good memories, and being with Chad is like being with a kid when you're on a camp, and we had a great time. Thanks for the memories.
Thank you very much, John. Those guys from Marshfield aren't that bad. They're starting to bring the meals around, and if you'll assure the caterers that they won't bother anybody, just go right ahead. I'd like to introduce some people that have been prior recipients of this award, and I'll introduce those folks that are here. Is the 1981 recipient here? Mr. Saltmarsh, is he here? Wait a minute, no, hold your applause here, hold your applause. I just didn't want to waste any good lines. No, I just really, Whip was a state rep, for you folks down in Mansfield. Whip was a state representative here. He's very well known in town today, even though he's not a representative. He's the largest landowner in the town. He inherited a tremendous amount of land, and the remarks about Whip is that he's darn lucky that his father was born before he was. Whip is a good friend of some of you folks, and he was the 1981 recipient, Whip Saltmarsh. Would you stand up again? Whip? You can get those shirts with the same color collar. Yeah. The 1982 recipient was Robert Nickerson. The 1984, we'll mention him later. The 1986, John Jake Chacha. Where is Jake? Was the town engineer for many years, and we have a field that's located right next to this area that's named after Jake. Got a big flagpole and a big rock and a plaque. And most of the people here that had anything to do with that honor, pray to God you don't get in any trouble. And next, not the biggest landowner, but one of the more wealthier recipients, Harry Shepelo from 1987. Where's Harry? And then we have our doctor, who I have the pleasure of serving on a bank board with. A good friend of mine, a good friend of many here, and still sees patients after hours. Dr. McLean. Where's Doctor? And then the 1990 recipient, a gentleman who probably donated all the floral arrangements in here, Paul Mahoney. Where is Paul? Where's Paul? And if you didn't donate them, you do it next year, right? And then a gentleman who has a building named for him within a 9-iron away from here. That's if Wade hits it. Is Arthur Griffin, who, if I didn't introduce him, would introduce himself. Arthur Griffin. Take a look at that coat. John. Arthur, if you could get Whip's shirt with that coat, you'd be golden. Next, a lady who we're going to hear from a little bit later in the evening, a good friend of mine, and I'll save my remarks about her till later, Judith Muja, former selectman. Also present here is one of the few engineers that was selected as the Person of the Year. A real first-class volunteer here in the town of Winchester, Justin McGee. Where's Justin? And then the 1996 recipient, some of who have watched some of her performances after her selection might have rethought the vote. Ann McGovern. Where is Ann? And last year's recipient and the longest speaker so far this evening, Peter Van Aken. Now, I have just one thing I'd like to do before everybody starts to eat, and that we have usually at all of these functions, you know, the state senator and the state representative come down here with these plaques and stuff, you know, and they give them to you, and there's a lot of talk. And what most people know is they usually take them back the next day so that they can use them. Whip had a whole cellar full of them. You had a baby, you got one of these things, you know, and you got your picture in the paper. This year, both of them couldn't make it, and no sign of any internal political problems in Winchester or anything. But Chad, if I could ask you to come up, I'll give you the two that we got. Now this was given today, and you'll probably see this in the paper. They both had problems with the budget this evening, so they gave the official citations in your office today, and here's the one from the Senate. Obviously, they have more money, because you can see it's got a real frame. And it says, "Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Chad Mora for being selected the Outstanding Citizen Award. Thomas Birmingham, Edward B. O'Neill, offered by Charles Shannon, Senator of the state." And then we've had some controversy from time to time at the selectmen's level with between Chad and some elected officials, but we do have also a presentation from Paul Casey. Thank you. No, Paul really sent one. He did. You have to send it back. But, and ladies and gentlemen, just to make sure that there'll be enough food, I'd like to introduce at this time, and please feel free to eat throughout his speech. He promised 2 minutes, but there is no way. Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished Edward O'Connell. Who is going to be right on schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. O'Connell has served in practically every major office in Winchester, with the exception of one. And that, I have to be very careful here because this guy is dangerous. But he served as a member and chairman of the Library Trustees, a member and chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and a longtime member and chairman of the Winchester School Committee, is still a member of the Winchester School Committee, one of the greatest volunteers in Winchester, and a guy who you heard was responsible, at least partially, for the selection of Chad Mora, Mr. Ed O'Connell. Edward.
Thank you, John. You ladies in the Winton Club may know Chad Mara as Shirley Temple. But in the Boston Combat Zone, the police know him as the Black Widow. And Regina, I think you ought to check more closely on those late-night meetings that he is allegedly attending. And there were two great national events that have occurred so far in 1998. And I wonder how many of you in the audience might, like me, couple these two great newsworthy items together. In March of 1998, the Food and Drug Administration approved the release of Viagra, the wonder drug. In April of 1998, the Winchester Chamber of Commerce named Chad Mara as Man of the Century. Everybody is smiling except Reggie. She knows a fake when she hears it. Now, when I learned that Chad Mara, of all people, was to be the Citizen of the Year, I was frankly stunned. And I wanted to probe a little and find out on what basis did they pick this guy. So I talked to the members of the Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee, and they told me there were two of them, only two. It's a small committee. One is the proprietress of a beauty parlor in town, and the other has a bagel factory. And if those two lines of business fade from our scene, we are going to be economically blighted. And of course, they told me that they recognized Chad for being such a dedicated public servant, that he seemed to work around the clock, that he's at meetings morning, noon, and night, never fails to put in an appearance. Well, my friend, that's about all that he does. He puts in an appearance. And then he stealthily slips away, leaving Joe Bonner and Mark Toogood to do the real work. And I wonder if any of you have ever seen this advertisement, and I'm sure those of you in the back room won't appreciate it, that does appear on a regular basis in the Woburn Daily Times Chronicle. It's from Gould Insurance Agency, and it shows two of their agents. And the fellow who's on my left, that is Chad Mara. Believe me. You wouldn't recognize him because it's a better picture than he actually does take. But he goes by the name of Jack Marlowe. And when he slips away from those meetings, he's double dipping. This guy is almost as wealthy as Whip Saltmarsh. Now, they said that confession is good for the soul. And I believe that. And I hope that Father Lavoie is still in the room, because I'm going to see him Saturday. And I really must confess to you, and I apologize, because I did inflict this SOB on the town of Winchester. And I don't sleep well at night. It's an awful burden of guilt to carry for 13 years. I keep hoping that he will go back to Mansfield or Marshfield or go anywhere. And I am only one among five that committed that fatal error of judgment. And I was joined by Mike Sirocco, Mark Lombardi, Wade Welch, and Alan McDonald. And we had a tough choice. And we narrowed it down to three. There was a gentleman from New Jersey who was in municipal government in that state. There was a gentleman from New Haven who was in municipal government in Connecticut, and there was Chad Mora from Massachusetts. And we could not come to consensus. We not only could not come to unanimous agreement, we just couldn't get 3 people to make a majority decision. And weeks and weeks, and we had these gentlemen coming back for second and third appearances, and the vote was 2-1. Nobody could get 3 votes, and we were stymied. And finally, Mike Sirocco came up with a great idea. Let's go off campus and let's meet quietly. This, of course, is a violation of the open meeting law. And Wade Welch, who was as guilty as I, has told me that we're safe because the statute of limitations has run out. So I can tell this true story now. And where to meet? And it was decided that the safest place would be at Mark Lombardi's house, way the hell up on Ware Road, right up near the Fells Way, and even the police don't go up there. So we felt secure. And we got together, and we had scheduled the 3 candidates to appear one after another. And Mike Sirocco again. See, I'm putting the blame on Mike Sirocco because he's not with us anymore, and he can't deny the validity of my comments. And Mike said, I've got a very simple question, one question that I'm going to put to each candidate, and this should be the basis for our reaching a consensus. And we all said, fine, Mike, let it go. And we brought the first man in to Mark Lombardi's study. Mark Lombardi never studies, but he has a study. And we sat the gentleman down, and then Mike said, going to ask you a very direct question. How much is 2 and 2? And the fellow from New Jersey looks at Mr. Sirocco and he said, oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. Before I entered the field of municipal government, I was actually a teacher of mathematics in a New Jersey high school. And of course, 2 and 2 are 4. Fine, thank you very much. He left the room. We brought in the gentleman from Connecticut. Mike asked the same question. And the gentleman from Connecticut said, well, you know, in municipal government, my real love is finance and accounting. And I know that sometimes it's not quite as simple as one might think. And he went around the room and he pulled down the shades. He opened, there was a closet in the study. He opened the closet and looked inside. And then he put out the lights. And then he said, what do you want it to be? And the 5 of us said, we've got our man. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you very much, and I still apologize.
Lou Gehrig was known as the Iron Man of baseball, and his fans thought he was indestructible. Until a fatal neuromuscular disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, prematurely ended his career and his life. Help win the one Lou couldn't. Call the ALS Association.
Perfect timing for Ed to speak. This is the first time I've ever done one of these, and I was able to finish my dinner. Thank you, Edward. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we we have a little presentation by the library trustees. For those out-of-towners, Winchester has been very fortunate, not obviously with the library trustees, but with the fact that we just finished construction of a new wing on our library, and some of this group had something to do with it. And I will turn it over to... Just watch the dynamics here. They're all in charge.
$4.3 million, and what do you get? Ashlar, granite, and a whole lot of debt.
Chad kept calling, and what did we say? We're holding to the budget day by day.
Move to Mystic, but keep patrons, please. Stay cool when Mario puts on the squeeze.
Chad kept calling, and what did we say? We're holding to the budget day by day.
Chad sneaking a peek when no one's around, checking us out from attic to ground.
Chad kept calling, and what did we say? We're holding to the budget day by day.
Litigation, arbitration, what do you have? Contractor headaches and an unhappy Chad.
Chad kept calling, and what did we say? We're holding to the budget day by day.
When will we open? Nobody knows. June, July, September, at least before it snows.
Chad kept calling, and what did we say? We're holding to the budget, holding to the budget, holding to the budget day by day.
I'm the next performer in this extravaganza. About 2 weeks ago, Chad dropped in on a library trustee meeting to discuss some budget questions, and we congratulated him on being awarded this honor of Citizen of the Year. And then asked the inevitable question, were you surprised? Chad indicated that he was indeed surprised, and then began to explain why. He said that about 2.5 days before the chamber meeting where the announcement was made of who would get the honor, he had been asked to give a speech leading up to the announcement that Charles Zechariah would be the Citizen of the Year. And Chad kindly said he would do that. He spent the next 2 days stewing about just what his approach or structure to the speech would be, finally lit on the idea that he would set forth a series of attributes or qualities that a Citizen of the Year might be expected to have, and then comment on the way that Charlie filled the bill. As I listened to this recital, I thought it would be a good idea if we use Chad's idea, his attributes approach, use it for Chad himself tonight. So here goes, and there follows a very brief list of 2 attributes that a Citizen of the Year might be expected to have. We had 11 more, but people around here have said you've got to be short about things. two lists, two attributes with a little brief recital of how Chad does or does not fit them. Maybe this will do better. Hear me? Okay. Attribute number 1, sexual awareness. Now, don't misunderstand me. This is not a Monica Lewinsky matter. It's a totally different concept. Well into 1996, when the pace of the renovation job finally quickened and the finish line could be faintly seen on the horizon, Chad cornered me at an early morning meeting and proceeded to give me some man-to-man advice concerning a problem that lay ahead. Near the conclusion of municipal construction projects, he counseled, when there is some money left in the contingency fund, lady members of building committees often have a tendency, a propensity, in fact, an urge to start pressing for changes. Changes in colors, changes in fabrics, changes in finish work, even small design changes in the structure. They can't help it, he acknowledged kindly. You should realize this, Lane, you should realize this and be on guard. Protect your contingency were his last words. I nodded dutifully and then conscientiously relayed this information to Ernie Phillips, the only other non-female member of our board. Were we successful? Well, what can I say? Ernie and I did the best we could. I really don't want to get into details at this time. The real point, the significance that you should grasp, is that this event, that is my conversation with Chad, was one more incident demonstrating the range and diversity of Chad's psychological insights. It instantly marked him in my mind, and I believe Ernie's as well, as potential Citizen of the Year material. Even then. Attribute number 2, determination. Our town manager has a reputation for firm determination, which occasionally, I am told, crosses over a fine line into stubbornness. Be that as it may, there is one Chad tale I want to tell you where I don't care, and you won't either, whether we label what he did was determination, resolve, perseverance, tenacity, grit, guts, or stubbornness, or all of the above. It's a story you should know about. It's also a story that Chad would not want me to tell, but I'm going to do it anyway. After the renovation job was finished, the town was sued in an arbitration proceeding. That is, a proceeding similar to a lawsuit with sworn testimony, arguments, and briefs, but in which the judge was an engineer and not a true judge. The suit was begun by an ex-partner of John French's in the architectural firm of Thompson, French and Matsumoto. John and the second partner, Glenn Matsumoto, having resigned from this firm some months earlier. Although the firm had previously billed the town for its renovation work over a 3-year period and been duly paid, this ex-partner, now the only remaining principal of the firm, thought he saw an opportunity and sued for large additional payments based on new contractual theories devised by him. The town felt strongly that the architectural firm's bills had been properly rendered and properly paid in the first place, and that these belated new claims, following closely in the wake of the firm's dissolution, were misconceived and unjustified. John French felt the same way and served as an expert witness in the town's defense. Eventually, the town achieved a successful result, but only after a prolonged and bitter tussle. Testimony at the arbitration hearing in Boston ended on December 22, 1997, 3 days before Christmas. The arbitrator had decreed in advance that this would be the final day. Chad was scheduled to be the next to last witness after John French and before Lynda Wills. He and Town Council Wade Welsh had prepared several lines of key testimony by Chad with exhibits that were essential to the town's case. However, the two lawyers' interrogation of French dragged on for hours. Cross-examination, redirect, recross. Chad had undergone medical treatment in the morning before the hearing began at midday. It was soon clear that he was not feeling well. We were all sitting around a long boardroom-type table. As the hours passed, Chad's head sunk lower and lower. We had at least 2 recesses, but this stubborn town manager of ours hung in there, refusing to leave. Finally, his head rested on his arms. I remember thinking at that moment, if only some of the perennial anti-town government types that our town has, and every town has, could have been there and seen that gutsy performance themselves. Minutes later, John French's testimony ended. Chad took the witness seat, and proceeded to testify with vim, vigor, and precision. In fact, lecturing opposing counsel a little in the process. Determination, this guy reinvented the word. So the climax of all this is that Chad clearly does pass his own type of attributes test. Indeed, using whatever test, formula, or process we might come up with, W. Chadwick Morrow well deserves the Citizens Award he is receiving. The particular message the library wants to leave you with is this. This is not your standard town manager. This is a go the extra mile, above and beyond type town manager. Speaking for the library trustees, for Lynda Wills, the director, and the staff, let me say that he has our admiration, our respect, and our affection. Thank you. I should say here that you're now about to witness a ceremony in which Mr. Morrow will receive a separate and somewhat subsidiary award, which is, I should add, the most distinguished award that the library has power to give. Lynda Wills, the library's director for the past 10 years, and its chief consultant concerning the subject of W. Chadwick Morrow, will do the honors.
No, I'll just leave it to it, thank you. Oops, I guess I'll hold it. There's a little known fact about the library renovation and how our town manager delegates authority. Although Chad said publicly many times that he strongly supported the idea of the library trustees as building committee, and although he was always careful to appear to be playing a supporting role in the little drama that was the renovation, what few people knew is that, in fact, at night, when everyone else had gone home, Chad would somehow get into the building and go through it and check up on the contractor, the architect, and the rest of us. When we moved back into the library, we changed the locks. But we thought that in honor of this occasion, it would be appropriate to present Chad with his own key.
Well, thank you very much from all of us to the library's trustees and their staff. Every town, and I'm sure even down in Mansfield, you know, at town meeting has somebody that seems to be the perennial problem at town meeting. And We are a little bit different as a community because we usually have a different person each year, sort of a spread the wealth program. This year, our annual town meeting, which is in progress right now, has, I think it's 41 articles. 41, is that right? 41 articles. And 11 of them were sponsored by the chairman of the Board of Health. They cover a wide range of topics from nuclear weapons to spending money on athletics to charter schools. And in true fashion, Dr. Schwartz, known among his friends as Dr. Rolf Schwartz, isn't on the agenda tonight, but he came in because he said that he had planned to be on and he would like to speak. And so we are going to recognize him for a short remarks, and please bear with him. This will be the only time in the month of May that Dr. Schwartz has been in order.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I did want to join. Yes, Mr. Moderator, let me get my clock out. I did want to say just a couple of words this evening. Chad and I have, and the Board of Health, of course, have worked on many projects together. And I want to say most sincerely that they have been important projects for the town. Some of them you don't know about. Chad, when we began to work towards reestablishing a beach, a town beach at Wedge Pond, Chad was one of our strongest supporters, and that's the truth. And the reason he supported it is that he was doing some very, very difficult things at that time with the town budget. I think all of us who are involved in the town know that Chad has worked for many years in a very difficult budgetary situation. Another thing that you don't know about, some of you know that we have a town drug and alcohol coalition because of our concern for our children, and that's very serious stuff. You probably don't know that the man who pulled that together originally was Chad Moore. And I think it's very, very significant that a town manager who has so many concerns that are other kinds of concerns in the operation of the town is moved into those kinds of areas that are constructive and beneficial to everyone within the community. And this year we again have some very serious budgetary problems, and most of us who are from the town are familiar with those. Anyone who's from Massachusetts knows about Prop 2.5 and the stresses that it creates. We're very fortunate in the town of Winchester to have a very careful and studied budget process. It proceeds over a period of months with many skilled professionals assisting in that effort, and it's really led by the town manager. And of course we're well aware of the various stresses in the process, and so I thought it might be useful to give Chad a little gift to assist him in the key steps in the negotiation process. So Chad, I do want to make this presentation to you. Now, Chad, some of you don't know, this hard hat is because of my role. In addition to being the chairman of the Board of Health, I'm on another committee that Chad established in the town, a local emergency planning commission. And I now, because of that role, I never go into town hall without my hat, just in case there's an emergency. In any event, Pardon me? Oh, the other ones. Dr. Eaton, could you stand up, please? Could you pass this back to Dr. Eaton? She'll need it this week. And Mr. Siegel, Eli Siegel, where are you? I saw you earlier.
You got one of those shaped like a hook?
Yes, thank you. And I believe this is for Mr. Alper. As may be, you'll need it. Where's Eli? Here you are. Thank you. I'll skip the other one. Eli Bortman?
He heard you were here. Thank you, Dr. Schwartz. In the middle of that speech, the guy next to me said, I didn't realize if I came here it was going to be this much fun. I thought that helmet was for pre-surgery. Ladies and gentlemen, next we have a former chairperson of the Winchester Board of Selectmen and someone who served for many years with Chad. She is, again, for the folks from down south, she is the one who established our sister city program with, was it Spain? No, France. One of those places, yeah. Judy Muja.
Are you ready? Hey, listen, it's great being on the other side of this thing. Well, this is a little poem. Can you hear me? The name of it was thought up by Betsy Kreger and Abby Hurlbut. And it's called 3 times 5 equals 16. That's close enough for government work. Folks, it ain't easy to be bossed by 5. You wonder what made him do it. But Chad learned he needs only 3 to survive. That's how town managers do it. In '85, Mark, who was then the board's chair, presented W. Chadwick Moore, who told us with words both quiet and spare, call me Chad. More formal is a horror. We came to expect his yellow legal pad and his face set in scowl, not a smile, taking copious notes on concerns, good and bad, which ended up in the circular file. Now, A&M frankly fears the Route 3 intersection. Albie's worried about the liquor store vote. Mike's in a tear about the news box infractions. And off camera, Wade, we can't quote. The next thing you know, Hurricane Gloria hit. Chad directed the cleanup with ease. It was clear Boston Edison didn't care a whit. Chad's kudos to our town employees. While Deering was selling Woburn Loop pieces, we redesigned Town Hall as well. Chad tried to solve problems with all the town's leases, and some wrote, "We're going to hell." Now, Frank Soper's on board, and he's very concerned with vandals and others escaping the arm of the law, but he's newly learned to record them by videotaping. Now, summer rolls in, vacation in the air. Chad expected the Cape would be calmer, but the Feast of the Assumption Fair provided hot August Mondays of drama. While town meeting voted town hall's renovation, the condition it was in was dire. Our building committee did one more computation, said it's over budget or higher. Labor talks are tough. We all did our bit. But when tempers started to fray, said Billy O'Leary with ever-ready wit, "What did you expect, the Boston Ballet?" Judy got her vote for the Bear Hill Pipe. Frank wanted to fence the fells. Powers bends Chad's ear on tennis court lights. Chairman Schmidt, the taskmaster from hell. The Winchester medals, Chad made them come true, and Santa's fire truck rides. Ageless follies in Winton, all would be blue without Chad, who serves all with pride. Jerry signed on and schmoozed with the best. Then Peter arrived with computer. Said, "Carol, on leaving, please be my guest." Josh struts about acting the tutor. Chad perseveres, for us all a mentor. The hours he gave us well spent. We saw the completion of the Griffin Center, and the great flood came and it went. Now Jim was elected and Priscilla too. Election nights. Where could Chad be? What does he do? Does he cheer? Does he boo? We'll never know. He stays home for results on TV. All kidding aside, you're a very special man, from year's beginning to New Year's Eve's end. No matter the occasion, you answer, "I can," and we are honored to call you our friend.
Thank you, Judy. Want to check this out? Oh. Judy Muja. I think Nan Moore enjoyed that. There's some people here that like him, Nan. And both of them paid. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have a song by the program committee.
You can see the program committee is a bit disorganized. Chad, after sitting here for quite a while and getting slammed from all sides, we thought it would only be fair to put a song forth which, in your point of view, sort of the town manager's view of the way it should be, called Chad's Fantasy. This is a song which loosely follows the tune of Those Were the Days, the theme song of the Archie Bunker song that Chad knows so well from the Winton Club. We're going to sing it twice in the hopes that maybe by the second time you'll understand it. Or we'll know it.
So we'll hope you understand. We hope you know it.
Hand in hand, make the FinCom budget grand. All the boards at his command. These are the days. Everyone in trials galore. Chad's marching at the fore. Listen, we don't need a man like Tommy Crew again. For we have no fiscal fat. Chad pulls rabbits from the hat. Who would have imagined that? These are the days.
One more time. They really liked it the first time. Did you understand the words? I did, Maestro. no, we have no fiscal fat. Chad pulls rabbits from a hat. Who would have imagined that? Those are the days.
You're not going to believe this back in Mansfield. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is a member of what is known affectionately among the town employees as a key member of the A team. Now, the B team is the team that is a full-time employers. You know, the fire chief, the police chief, the town engineer. They're the B team. And what that means is we're going to be there when you guys come, and we're going to be there when you leave. And so the leader of the A team, Josh Alper, present chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Josh?
Thank you, John. Come on, team. 18. I see the microphones are well adjusted for the... Here, let me help vertically you. Unchallenged. By the way, the rabbit died. No. Yeah, the rabbit died. But you know, the Little People's Liberation Front will be heard from. Any lower? That's fine, Jerry. Thank you. Oop. I imagine that in Mansfield, the Board of Selectmen receive rather more respect than we do. But on the other hand, we receive everything we deserve. This is an official citation, what we call locally the lumber. The entire membership of the Winchester Board of Selectmen it appears that this is for the those whose hearing may also be challenged. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Be it hereby known to all that the town of Winchester hereby offers sincerest congratulations to W. Chadwick Maurer in recognition of his being named the 1998 Outstanding Citizen of the Year, given this 13th day of May, 1998. Dismissed. It's very fortunate that the Mansfield selectmen are here because, as many of you, or maybe only few of you know, Chad has applied to resume his former position as Mansfield town manager, and he has asked the present board for a letter of recommendation. Now, writing a letter for such an able person as Chad is always an easy task. Our board is, of course, flattered that our chief executive has been recognized by the town's Chamber of Commerce as Citizen of the Year. We used to say Man of the Year. Now maybe we could say Male Citizen of the Year, just to keep it straight. But we fear that he may have done what he may have done on the sly to achieve such an award. Now, Kathy Alexander has assured us that the deal quietly struck to erect an ornate two-story sign on the front lawn of Town Hall, bearing a bright neon directory of all the shops in the central business district, had absolutely no influence on their decision. And Brian LaPointe swears that Chad's offer to replace the clock in the town hall tower with a 3-meter dish antenna at no cost to Cellular One is likewise immaterial. Now, since leaving Mansfield in 1985 to live and work in Winchester, which is, of course, a town with more than a little intellectual pretension, Chad has become renowned as an author of fiction. With that in mind, a book signing party is to be held at Bookends for his most recent potboiler, which is, of course, the proposed budget for fiscal year 1999. And you know, Chad can frequently be seen reading aloud from this tome between sips of almond cappuccino at Starbucks evening poetry readings. Now, the length of Chad's budget proposals, which we might call his epic period, is in striking contrast to his minimalist period, which coincided with his past duties as recording secretary for the Board of Selectmen. Always challenged by writer's cramp, Chad's minutes read like an extended haiku. Meeting called to order at 7:45 p.m. All selectmen present. Business transacted. Meeting adjourned at 10:30. Chad's literary talents, however, pale in comparison to his inventive collective bargaining techniques. Although long known for a serious approach to labor relations, Chad has recently developed a more enlightened view, reminiscent perhaps of 1930s Detroit, having advocated hiring armed Pinkertons to infiltrate one of the bargaining units in order to achieve a quick and advantageous contract settlement before the conclusion of Springtown meeting. And now Chad is also beloved by all who work in our school department, where he is called Comrade Lenin, for his famous 5-year budget plan, which we have yet to see. Now, in order both to increase municipal efficiency and creatively fund school programs, Chad is delivering all town hall computers to the high school in lieu of an appropriation for the computer lab. Well known for his delight in computer technology, principally exercised by standing between Mark Toogood and his keyboard, Chad is teaching a refresher course for those employees whose abacus skills have grown rusty. Nor should we fail to point out Chad's innovative solution to the impact of our town's 19th century road grid on parking and traffic. Chad has deftly sent many a proposal to the Traffic Advisory Committee, where, like the Count of Monte Cristo, it never again sees the light of day. Always quick on his feet, Mr. Mora has, in the past, been surprisingly willing to expand the requirements of his job description. As previously noted, upon the arrival of His Honor Mayor Pericord of Saint-Germain during the 1991 jumelage, did I get that right, jumelage? Chad and then Chairman Bill O'Leary were instantly pressed into service, hauling numerous suitcases for the visiting dignitaries, thus advancing the cause of international relations. We might add a word of warning that any town hiring Chad had better like rhododendrons. Because Winchester has been adorned with hundreds of these flowering shrubs donated by the Mora family. This is, in fact, typical of Chad's devotion to Winchester. And on balance, we think that Mansfield ought to hire another candidate for its town manager, because we would like to keep W. Chadwick Mora right here. P.S. If the town of Mansfield can tell us what the W stands for, we would be much obliged.
Thank you very much. Well, that for the folks in Mansfield, I gave you a little sort of an overview of what the upper echelons of our town government is like. A speech from the classics. And you saw the other members. In fact, one of them, Jerry Polcari, has been studying the program over there, and it says on there, 19th Outstanding Citizen of the Year. And when he was on his way up, he asked me, you know, if Chad was the 19th, what did the first 18 guys get besides a dinner? It's okay, Chad. That didn't go over very well. Let me explain that. No. Next, ladies and gentlemen, Winchester is very fortunate. We are one of the few municipalities that has a town-funded choir. So at this time, I would like to represent to you the Winchester Town Government Choir. And all our paid employees.
Thank you, Chad. Chad, this is. This is a staff meeting or a prayer meeting. Sit right up there, Chad. Made us love you.
We didn't want to do it.
You made us beg you.
And not all the time we knew it. We guess you always knew it.
You made us happy sometimes.
You made us glad.
And there were times, Chad, you made us feel so bad. We may have lied, but we didn't want to tell you. We didn't want to tell you. We want some cash, that's true. Yes, we do. We do. You know we do. Give me, give me, give me, give me one. Don't knock it. You know you got the shortest arms and deepest pockets. You know you made us love you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Winchester Town Choir. Those, ladies and gentlemen, were the department heads, the various department heads, if you didn't recognize them all. Now, we tried to get somebody from the family to make a few comments, and we finally convinced, couldn't get any blood relative to say anything. But your brother-in-law, Conrad Rogowski, has agreed to make a few remarks. Conrad?
What I want to know is what the hell is all this outstanding citizen crap? They told me if I came down here, I'd see the final episode of Seinfeld. All right, since I'm here. little while ago, you heard some remarks on the character of the outstanding citizen of the year. Well, let me tell you, you haven't heard the half of it. All right, so what makes an outstanding citizen of the year besides Mrs. Outstanding Citizen of the Year? What are the intricate building blocks which shapes a character such as this? What are the skills, the talents, the ethics, the standards of the man whom we honor here tonight? How did he grow? What glimpses of greatness were there in his past? What defining moments that defined this fine civil servant? Well, our first story speaks of his trustworthiness and his responsibility. Ah, yes. Who can forget the time in school when young Chatty Moorer, in an effort to avoid taking a math test, told his shop teacher he had accidentally swallowed a nail? Well, of course, his mother and father were immediately summoned and whisked him off to the emergency room, where x-rays revealed no nail. Lots of brass, no nail. And to top it off, he was just as swiftly whisked back to the school, where he made it just in time for the math test. However, so convincing was our young lad's tale that his own mother continued to believe him despite scientific and medical evidence to the contrary. For years, his trusting, silver-haired mother continued to believe her son until he recently confessed his long-running hoax. I'm sure you believe, as I do, that any man who'll lie to his own mother can't be all bad. But wait, there's more. What about good old-fashioned kindness to animals? Who could better define these very words than our Chatty? His brother Don remembered those dark nights back in Kingston when young Chad Moorer would lie in wait till the kindly old farmer next door, after a long and hard day's work, would lock up his faithful old workhorse, Queenie. You remember Queenie, don't you? And when all was quiet and the old farmer was gone, young Moorer would steal into the barn and steal the horse and ride the poor beast to exhaustion, then return it to her stall. The old farmer could never quite figure out just why that damn horse was always so tired. Yes, friends, a man who not only lies to his mother but steals horses is a man you can trust. There are, I understand, some stories involving small goats named Beulah, Dee Dee, and Buttercup. But you look like decent church-going folks, so I'm not even going there. But there's more. Our young delinquent soon tired of stealing old horses and graduated, according to his brother Richie, to heisting tractors for joy rides out in the field, until, of course, he got caught. He changed his ways. Chad's idea of reforming came in the form of boosting his own father's car on Christmas Eve and then backing it out into the garage door. Now, folks, you can't tell me that grand larceny and destruction of private property aren't attributes you admire in a public servant. But oh yes, there's more. His wild and frivolous youth behind him, Chad Moorer began to settle down, to become responsible, to become a family man. And he turned from selfishness to helping those around him, especially the young and impressionable, through his own particular version of family values. And who could want for a better role model? Take, for example, his help to his brother Richie, who, when faced with the dilemma of possibly getting drunk at his senior prom, sought the sage counsel of his brother. And Chad, in true fashion, had the answer. Yes, instead of letting his brother get drunk at the prom and get into trouble, Chad went right out and bought a six-pack the night before the prom and proceeded to get his brother good and drunk to the point of barfing out the bedroom window. Well, Richie went to his prom, but he didn't drink. I'm not even sure he was able to face food. But he went. Yes, a brother's love knows no bounds. And what of his own children? How has he help shape their young lives? His wife tells of the time when proud new father Chad Maurer took over the babysitting duties for an afternoon to watch over his dear little daughter, Lynn, sleeping soundly, trustfully in her little crib. And all was going well until Chad and his friend Dan Hayes decided to head out and run a few errands. They'd gotten to the end of the driveway when Hayes, I'm told, commented, "Hey, wasn't there some kid you're supposed to be watching?" Ever vigilant is our man of the year. The years pass, and Mr. Moore, ever a strong backer of education, decided to help his 16-year-old daughter to practice with her driving permit. His plan involved two basic steps. First, skip school. A tradition which the senior Moore had long since established in his own educational career. And second, he had her drive to the Cape. Well, the road test was going just fine until the poor girl got to the Rotary. Her first Rotary ever. Have you ever been to the Cape Cod Rotary? I wouldn't send my worst enemy there, never mind taking my kids there. Well, she proceeded bravely to drive around that Rotary, and around, and around. And just to help keep another old Maurer family value alive, they conveniently neglected to tell her mother about the truancy or the traffic trauma. Now think about it. Truancy, reckless endangerment, and corruption of youth. Sounds like a formula for success to me. But sadly, there's still more. A son, Andrew, young, impressionable, a Boy Scout, no less. Now that Boy Scout creed, how does that go? I will try to, does anybody know how this goes, this Boy Scout creed? What's in there? Is there anything in there about putting strange stuff into the Scouts' food and then making them guess what they're eating? Anywhere. Or what about those times he'd send the poor old Scouts out into the night air on those infamous snipe hunts? You know, snipes, those non-existent little birds. Yeah, that's right. He'd send those little buggers right out there into the night air in a wild snipe chase just to tire them out and get them into bed early. You know, there's something truly likable about a guy who lies to his mother, steals horses, cars, and tractors, promotes underage drinking, skipping school, and deceives the Boy Scouts of America. God, what a man. But you've got it, there's more. Well, this is a man who has not forgotten the arts or public speaking. He's always had a flair for exposing himself to the arts. Take, for instance, his stage debut in the admirable Crichton. Or is that Cretin? Anyways, a play in which he portrayed, of all things, a minister. Imagine that. And during the performance of this uplifting moral epic, he improvised the now famous song, "I'm Back in the Pulpit Again." You know, apart from lying and horse thievery, I always look for a solid background in heresy in a man's resume. Now, working in the public eye as he does, and always wishing to hone his public speaking talents, Chad has for years practiced the art of ventriloquism. Ventriloquism. That's where one dummy tries to convince you that another dummy said something really stupid. A very handy task to have, a very handy skill to have when you're a politician. Yes, for years now, he and Harvey, that's the other dummy's name, have been close pals, perhaps too close. he was a great distress to his parents. He was, after all, the only son they'd ever had who ever asked for a doll for Christmas. And that's not surprising, since he's the only guy I know who not only knows all the words to the Village People's song YMCA, but who dances it with more flair than most guys I know, or most women, for that matter of fact. But hey, that doesn't mean you're not a nice person, even if you dance funny and sleep with goats. So there, friends, there you have it. What more could you ask from our outstanding citizen? He lies to his mother. He lies to the Boy Scouts of America. Steals horses, cars, tractors, encourages underage drinking, skipping school, bad driving, destruction of private property, not to mention heresy, playing with dolls, sexual ambiguity. Outstanding Citizen of the Year? Hell, this guy should be president.
Taisha was one of those kids that grew up witnessing drive-by shootings. She was basically, I'm not going to be afraid to live in my neighborhood. You know, I'm proud of where I live at, and, you know, I'm going to make a difference. She got the other teenagers involved. She started volunteering over 120 hours of volunteer time a month. She was basically fearless.
It's time to get involved. This is General Colin Powell of America's Promise. Call us and point a kid in the right direction.
They told me you'd be good, they didn't tell me you'd be great. Okay, who's going to follow that act? Not me. Ladies and gentlemen, a former chairman of the Winchester Board of Selectmen, Bill O'Leary. Bill?
Are you ready for the question? We already heard from the selectmen that were responsible for hiring Chad through Ed. Thank you, Ed. The former selectmen, which is quite a distinguished group, as you know, we have a couple of the current ones too, would like to recognize the real power behind the throne here with a musical number. Anyone who knows about Winchester politics knows that women run this town, thank God. And we'd like to honor Reggie, Chad's wife, who he has had to come home and say to us, Judy Muja made me wear the sash around the office today, and I just don't know what to do. That Bill O'Leary is swearing at me all the time. Jerry Polcari has me analyzing everything, and Steve Powers, I don't know what to do with him. Peter Van Aken is studying everything still, and Tom Schmidt, thank God, he moved to California. Welch, Sirocco, Lombardia, O'Connell, and McDonald, and Bob Deering, and Carol Mullen, and Judy Muja, and Frank Zappa. We're all very grateful to have worked with you, Chad, but this song is for Reggie. Are you ready, Maestro?
We got sunlight on the sand, we got moonlight on the sea, we got mangoes and bananas we can pick right off a tree. We got volleyball and ping pong and a lot of dandy games. What ain't we got? We ain't got dames. We get packages from home, we get movies, we get shows, we get speeches from our skipper and advice from Tokyo Rose. We get letters doused with perfume, we get dizzy from the smell. What don't we get? You know damn well.
We got nothing to put on a clean white suit for. What we need is what there ain't no substitute for.
There is nothing like a day, nothing in the world. There is nothing you can name that is anything nothing like a dame, nothing in the world. There is nothing you can name that is anything like a dame. Nothing else is built the same. There's nothing in the world that sucks. Crossed off, Bill. That's all right. That's crossed off. It's like the silhouette of a dame. Right here, Jerry. Right here. I got it. All right. Nothing. Hold it. Pick it up again. Pick it up. You're ready for the finale. There are no books like a dame, and nothing looks like a dame. There are no drinks like a dame, and nothing thinks like a dame. Nothing acts like a dame, or attracts like a dame. There ain't a thing that's wrong with any man here that can't be cured by putting him near a girly, womanly, female, feminine dame. We won't do an encore.
Can't take them anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the Superintendent of the Schools, Carol Eaton, and our Town Council, Wade Welch.
At least we don't have to put the mic way down. Well, for the first time in history, some records are going to be released, public records, that never, never, never are released until people at least have moved out of town or have retired. And you remember the very famous stage play that all the wonderful actors and actresses performed on stage in Boston called Love Letters, where each wrote to the other and talked about the relationship. Well, this is love-hate memos from the town manager and myself back and forth. And Wade has something to cover this event.
When Carol asked me if she could release these memos, I said, well, no problem. Chad's a public figure. Absent absolute malice on your part, you can release these memos. But I said, as a matter of courtesy, I would talk to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Josh Alper, about the issue. Based upon that conversation, I have to report the following. The people and events mentioned in these programs and these memos are purely coincidental to any real persons or events. I've also been advised that the Finance Committee and our auditor and our insurer, Great American, have added a loss contingency on Mr. Alper's advice to our regular budget for this year. I believe that I have the first memo. Memorandum to Carol Eaton from Chad Morrow. Ray, how to budget. I hope you and the school committee aren't planning to add any staff for next year. I'm not recommending any new staff for the municipal side for next year. Please advise.
Yes, we're recommending new staff, 21 to be exact. I hope that's not a problem. But we don't want any reductions on the municipal side to pay for them. Trust me.
To Carol Eaton from Chad Morrow. Ray, trust me, I may, underlined, be repeating myself, but I thought we agreed on quote, no new staff, close quote, for next year. P.S. Don't say, quote, trust me, close quote.
To Chad Moore from Carroll Eaton of Ray Special Education Costs. The out-of-district placements have been killing us. What can you suggest? Bid it? No way. By the way, we need 2 instructor positions filled right away for ed plans. How's the benefits account and the FICA doing?
To Carol Eaton from you-know-who, Ray Special Education Costs. Are you kidding me? How can you add new staff in the middle of the year? I told you that I understand special ed. If you want to add new staff, you pay for the benefits.
To Chad Moore from you-know-who, Ray, the budget scrub down. Thanks again for the scrub down of the budget, that is. Last year, for FY98. Next time, scrub out some more bucks.
To Carolee, Ray, scrub this. You must be vigilant and show more restraint. Just adding dollars doesn't improve programs. Do what I do. Cut everything.
To Chad from Carroll. Ray, Sister City visit from teachers from Saint-Germain. We have a contingent of about 10 educators arriving from Saint-Germain in 2 weeks. I was wondering if you and Bill O'Leary would be available to carry their luggage into the school. Thank you.
To Carolee, Ray, St. Germain visit. Sorry, Bill and I will not be able to carry the luggage that day. We've already been engaged to carry luggage for Judy Muja.
To Chad Moore from Carroll, Ray, technology and email. Can the school department count on you to support our capital planning request for technology this year? Will you help us get the network repaired so that everyone can use email in the entire town?
To Carolee, Ray, technology and email. Technology, email, network. I don't even use a calculator. That's what I have marked too good for. Why can't you school people get real?
To Chad from Carroll, assessor's release of the overlay account. What happened to the assessors releasing the $100,000 from the overlay account? I just heard they won't give it up. What's going on?
To Carolee, Ray, assessors and money. I just got a call from Mark Lombardi on assessors. He said they won't release it until Carl Frizel and Josh Albert pay their taxes.
To Chad from Carroll, transportation emergency. Help! The bus company just called and told us they won't pick up our kids tomorrow unless we pay their overdue bill. What can be done? Can Wade, the pit bull, Wade Welch, help us fast?
To Carolee, Ray, transportation emergency. The company tried to gouge us for our flood emergency. We'll shut that money grubber down. Wade will rip their faces off. He loves a good fight.
To Chad Moore from Carroll Eaton. Ray, unhappy 8th grade visit to the town hall experience. Chad, I apologize for the behavior of the 8th graders who visited the town hall and pillaged your offices. I especially regret that a student asked you if you were the town dickhead. My main concern was, why did you say yes?
To Carol Eaton from Chad Mara. Ray, Tom Dickhead. When the kids are right, they're right.
To Chad from Carol, Ray, skateboard park idea and cemetery funds. Nothing is holy. Chad, how about a fundraiser for the cemetery trust fund next year? If you and the selectmen recommend that the skateboard park be constructed in the cemetery, there shouldn't be a problem charging admission to raise money for the cemetery. I'm sure Sue Powers and Cheryl Sabara and even Carl Frizel would support this revenue-generating idea. Let Lee Evans set up the program. She knows how to make money.
To Carolee, Ray, skateboarding in the cemetery. I don't think we can make the skateboard park in the cemetery fly with all the boards, but I think we could all agree that it could be in Randy Schwartz's front yard.
To Chad Moore from Carol. Ray, flood, help! The high school is going down for the third time. Blub, blub, blub. Where can we put the kids for 5 days? Your office, maybe? Please don't ask your board for any advice. It would take too long for a decision and the flood would recede.
To Carol from Chad, Ray, flood help. Whatever you do with the kids, don't spend any more money. Don't call the DPW for help. The Board of Selectmen will study the problem, even if the flood recedes. P.S. Am I repeating myself? Don't spend any money.
To Chad Moore from Carol. Evacuation of Morocco. Guess what? We decided that the Morocco school would move out while the roof is being replaced. Is this a problem? Do you think Josh Alper will mind? By the way, can the town cough up the money to rent the Immaculate Conception School for 2 months right soon?
To Carol from Chad, Ray, evacuation of Morocco. I thought we agreed that everyone would stay in the building because we all told them it was safe enough. Josh won't be a happy camper. By the way, I don't want to give any money to the Cardinal. P.S. Don't tell me that you are including me in your prayers.
To Chad from Carol, Ray. Something's blocking the highway in front of Immaculate Conception School. What is the house doing in the middle of Main Street? The buses can't get by to get into IMC. Please advise as to whose it is and what are we going to do about it?
To Carol from Chad, Ray, house and street. Well, the house in the street is a long story. It's Jimmy Johnson's house, and the selectmen have already told him to drive it away. Don't get excited about it. Trust me.
To Chad from Carol, Ray, timing of the budget presentation at town meeting. Could you ask the Godfather, John Sullivan, if he wants the school department to be ready for the presentation next Thursday, or do you need to ask God, Carl Frizel, if that evening is okay? P.S. Yes, there is a God.
To Carol Eaton from Chad Morrow, Ray, timing and God. I have checked with the Godfather and he says yes, but God won't return my phone calls.
To Chad from Carol, support from Paul Casey and Charlie Shannon. I wrote a letter to both of them last year asking them for help with the flood problems. Guess what their answer was? Take the money out of the water and sewer account, and if that's not enough, take the money out of the rec department's revolving account.
To Carol from Chad, Ray, Casey, and Shannon, support. Sorry they couldn't help you out with any real money. Why don't you ask the FinCom for extra money? They favor the school department over the town side anyway.
To Chad Moore from Carol. Ray, please send over a carton of 3-ring binders. I need some 3-ring binders immediately. Randy Schwartz hasn't let up on us regarding the athletics budget. I need binders badly.
To Carol from Chad, Ray Binders. How did you find out about the three-ring binder story?
To Chad from Carol. Private meetings, secret agreements. Thanks a lot for getting me in that broom closet that you call a room on the 3rd floor of Town Hall to talk about the real numbers in the school budget. From now on, I'll ask Joe Peritano to give me police protection when I meet with you and any selectman.
To Carol from Chad, Ray, private meetings, police protection. Remember, Joe Peritano's on my side. He won't protect you if I tell him not to. If he does, I won't give him his extra police cruisers.
To Chad from Carol, a real thanks to you. Seriously speaking, thanks for the continuous support during numerous crises. Limitation of temper tantrums about the budget to 20 minutes each time. Going to the mat publicly over very critical issues, and then being a good friend in spite of our differences.
To Carol Eaton from Chad Mara, Ray, thanks. Hey, don't get all touchy-feely.
Thanks a lot. Some of that will hit the cutting room floor. For you folks at home that are watching this on tape, you should have been here. Embarrassing. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the beautiful things that's happened as a result of the many dinners we've had, 19 actually, is that we've had some rather raw talent that has burst on the scene. And a couple of years ago, we had a singing group that appeared here. It was formed around one of the inductees. And they kind of stuck together, and they've toured some of the big spots. There was Trenton, a short run in Norfolk, and a recent engagement up in Bath, Maine. It's my pleasure to welcome back the famous or infamous Venettes.
Ourselves as the artists formerly known as the Vanettes. Well, it's spring, and as always, the town budget is the hot topic, and it's even a little bit more hot than usual this year because you may or may not know that our esteemed town moderator, Mr. Sullivan, has requested that at the conclusion of town meeting, Mr. Moore bring together a budget forum, a budget summit that is going to review the town budgeting process with the school committee, representatives of the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, to improve and make recommendations for the modification of that process in the future. And each of us who's had the opportunity to work with Mr. Marr in the past, either through the Finance Committee or the school committee or town meeting or capital planning, has our own take on this process and on Mr. Moore's role in it. But we decided that we would put that aside and try to put ourselves in Mr. Moore's shoes and try to look at this whole process and the role of others in it from his perspective. So this is called It's My Budget by the artists formerly known as the Vanettes. And I need an F. 1 and 2 and it's my budget and I'll do what I want to, do what I want to, do what I want to.
easy for me. There's no better way. 'Cause it's my budget and I'll do what I want to. Do what I want to. Do what I want to. Just what I do, no one has a clue. Finance committee is my nemesis. They think they are so darn smart, tracking down all of the things that I miss. To them, budget cuts are a lark. School budget's always a mystery to me. I think their numbers are fake. Not enough teachers for classrooms. Oh, gee! I say just let them eat cake. 'Cause it's my budget and I'll do what I want to. Do what I want to. Do what I want to. Just what I do, no one has a clue. Board of Selectmen tells me what to do. Or maybe it's the other way. Wish they were puppets sitting on my knee. I tell them all what to say. This budget summit's unnecessary. It's just a waste of my time. Why do you care where I find the money? Things always come out just fine. 'Cause it's my budget and I'll do what I want to. Do what I want to. Do what I want to. All that I do, I just do it for you. Yeah, it's my budget and I'll do what I want to. Do what I want to. Do what I want to. All that I do, I just do it for you. All that I do, I just do it for you.
Let's hear it for the former Vanettes and now Ardent. Ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching the bewitching period here. I told Chad, I called Chad up this week just to talk to him about the program a little bit tonight, and he started telling me of all these things he was going to say in rebuttal to people, and I told him that's the fun part of this evening, you're not speaking. I did ask him one thing there. I asked him if he could give me sort of an outline of some of the major crises that he had had in government. And he says, well, you know, I started down in Mansfield, and he said I started as the planning director, and then I became the town manager. He said, and suddenly I really fell in a deep hole and got in some major league political trouble down there. I said, don't worry about that. We had a planning director who fell in the hole, too. Hi, Steve. And then I said, well, really what I was interested in is, and this is a true story, I said, could you give me an idea of what, like, say, the 3 top government crises you had in Winchester? And he said, yes, Mark Lombardi, and Mark Lombardi. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Brian Lapointe, who is the president of the Winchester Chamber of Commerce. Brian.
Good evening. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank you all for coming here this evening to honor not only an outstanding citizen, but truly an outstanding human being. As has been the case for the past 3 years, I have taken the liberty of using this opportunity to inform other members of the community, other than the business community, on some of the issues and events that the Chamber of Commerce has been involved in over the past year. After all, if the business community thrives and prospers, then the community at large will thrive and prosper. And it was for that reason that we took an active role in working closely with the Planning Board in the development of the recently passed antenna bylaw. By working closely with the Planning Board, it's our feeling that we have preserved the character of the town, and yet we still feel that this bylaw will allow private, nonprofit, and municipal organizations to benefit from the increased revenue that these antennas will generate. We have also made a concerted effort to work more closely with the Board of Selectmen and the town manager to keep them updated on the views and opinions of the Chamber so that they can make informed decisions. We have recently enacted a program where there will be one member of the Board of Directors at every Board of Selectmen meeting so that we can keep the business community informed of issues affecting them in a timely manner. But we've also had some fun times together. Over the past few years, we've been having on almost a monthly basis after-hour socials at different businesses around town. It's been a great place to get together, to meet new people, to get reacquainted with other people, and just to relax after a long day at work. Also, this past year, thanks to the efforts of Dot Butler and Nan Shanahan and Brian Malauskas, the Chamber held its first annual holiday house tour. The response from both the merchants and the townspeople was overwhelming, and we hope to continue and to make this an annual Chamber event. The most enjoyable event, however, is the Outstanding Citizen of the Year Award dinner. And that now brings me to you, Chad Morrow. I've actually known Chad since he moved into town and bought his house on Fells Road. What I didn't know, though, was what a tireless worker the man is. It was during my first year as the president of the Chamber that we had the devastating flood. And what Chad did during that event certainly went above and beyond the duties of his job. He worked night and day, coordinating all sorts of activities to make sure that everyone's voice was heard. I know for a fact that he worked closely with the Chamber of Commerce, the Federal Emergency Management Agency people, to make sure that any business and residents that had a problem was seen and taken care of. As everyone before me has said, Chad, you have gone above and beyond your duties as the town manager. With your help at the INCOG, the Winton Club, the Aegis Follies, the Spelling Bee, and as our Christmas Santa, you have made our town a much nicer place to live in and to work in. So it is my honor to present you, Chad Moore, with the Chamber of Commerce 1998 Outstanding Citizen of the Year Award, which has been this year, again, donated by Arthur Griffin. So Chad, John, would you like to come up here? appreciation of all the great work that you've done for the town. It is our great pleasure to present this to you tonight, Chad.
The chamber is, by the way, for you, Chad, is also hired Cindy Ambrose right out here, and Cindy is putting together a album of photographs for you as a memory of tonight. And before I turn the mic over, just as a personal note, I've known Chad probably as long as anybody in this room, with the exception of his family and the folks from Mansfield. And I want to say that from my perspective, I think back of all the time that I've been involved in Winchester. And I remember something that Whip Saltmarsh told me many, many years ago when we both served on the Board of Selectmen, that probably the most important job that a public official has to do is to find the right people for the B team. And in this town, we've been blessed with a great B team. All the department heads we have, all of the town employees and the supervisors, the principals in the school, the superintendents of the schools. All of that is really what makes the town tick, and that and plus all the volunteers. Chad is really the epitome of a good process that I didn't participate in it because I wouldn't pick you. But it obviously is the output of that process. And I've known him as a colleague in government. I've known him better as a friend and as somebody that I could bat things around with respect to the town. And I like to think that he shares that friendship with me. And I can't think of a finer person to win this award than Chad Mora. And I present him to you now. Chad.
Remarks that I would like to make this evening, but I want to start off first by talking about the selection of this year's Outstanding Citizen of the Year. As has already been mentioned, that I was called down to the Winchester Country Club several weeks ago to what I thought was to announce this year's recipient, Charles Zecharias. And I worked on a speech, and I came up with a rather unique way of presenting Charles. And if you know Charles, you know that he's a unique individual, so you have to take extra care to when you're going to present him to anybody. The tide was turned on me that evening, and Charles announced me as the recipient of the award this year. About 2 weeks ago at the Education Building Committee meeting, the committee members were talking about, we're going to be there Wednesday night. We can't have our usual meeting on Wednesday evening because we have to go to Chad's function. And Charles came over to me and he said, Chad, I'm sorry, I will not be there. I'm going to be in San Francisco. So then it dawned on me. The selection of the Outstanding Citizen this year in Winchester has nothing to do with qualifications. It was going to be on the availability of the recipient. I think I know I owe a very special thanks to the 5 members of the Board of Selectmen that
brought me to Winchester. And I know that their decision is always subject to review, and as Mr. O'Connell noted, that you know, he still has some reservations. But I think it's important that to thank them because without their appointing me, this evening wouldn't have occurred. But it also gave me a very strong chance and an opportunity to advance professionally in a community that at that time I recognized as an outstanding career opportunity for me, and I'm very grateful to Mark Lombardi, Alan McDonald, Ed O'Connell, Wade Welsh, and to Mike Sirocco. And I would point out that Mike Sirocco, who unfortunately is no longer with us, was a great help to me during my first few months on the job, because what Mike did is Mike taught me about the history of Winchester and what it meant, not just to Precinct 8, not just to the North End, but to the whole community. And we drove up and down many streets in Winchester, and he pointed out the various locations and different areas of interest. He took me to what was then known as the Swanton Street Deli and introduced me to the crowd over there. But he taught me what Winchester is all about, and I am forever grateful for that, because I believe that the time that Mike spent with me really helped me out in the job that I have to do on behalf of the town. With respect to Ed O'Connell, and I want to make this comment because Ed is always very concerned about the image of the town of Winchester. And about 2 years after I was appointed the town manager here, my good friend Bob Hutchinson, who was then the town manager over in Lexington, resigned, and so they were looking for a new town manager. And Ed was walking beside me in the Memorial Day parade, and as we were marching down the street, I was walking, Ed always marches, but as we were marching down the street, Ed said to me, he said, "Chad," he said, "I have a question to ask you. And I said, "The answer is no." And he said, "Well, how can you say no when you don't even know what the question is?" And I said, "Go ahead, ask me the question." So he said, "Have you applied for the town manager's job in Lexington?" And I said, "The answer is still no." And he said, "Good." He said, "How would we ever explain it to the people in Winchester if you didn't get it?" I think that when the receipt of this award this evening is really the responsibility or the efforts of three groups of people, and I would like to acknowledge those efforts right now. My family and my friends, and I think you've already the people from Mansfield have already been harassed enough, but the only thing that I will say is that, believe it or not, there is a Mary Pronsky in Mansfield. But I'm very grateful to those friends that came here this evening, because they mean an awful lot to me. And one person that John did not mention is my good friend Dennis Hannon, who was the first town manager that I worked with when I was in Mansfield. And the work that we did together in the early 70s is some of the very fun public work that I did. The reason it was fun is because that was before Proposition 2.5, and that's when communities had money to work with. And believe me, it's a lot more more fun to work on municipal projects when you have money than when you're trying to just debate with whoever over the nickels and dimes. What can I say about my family? And I will just make a few comments about, first off, I'll start with my mother, who's here this evening, and I'm very appreciative that she was able to make it this evening, and it means a lot to me to have her here tonight. I would say that I think I got my start in town government back in 1952. We were living in the town of Kingston, and my mother took my brothers
two of my brothers, my third brother wasn't, I don't think was born yet, but they took us to a town meeting. And at that town meeting, they were debating, the big debate, and the topic of debate was where to place the town dump. And if you've ever gone to the Cape and you go through Kingston, up on the left-hand side, right before the Independence Mall, is where the town dump was. And that was the subject of the debate that evening. And back in those days, women, when they went to town meeting, weren't supposed to speak. But my mother, who has a little bit of Mary Pronsky in her, had no problem standing up and asking some questions. And the question that she asked, and she was kind of talked down as, what is this woman asking this question for? The question that was asked was, why don't we build an incinerator? And she got kind of looked at in strange looks. But the point that I want to make is, I came on to Winchester, and now I'm the town manager here. And what is a little known fact is that my mother is now the principal stockholder in Neswick. My wife is one that has been very supportive of me throughout my career, and my mother advised her before we got married that if you marry him, your life will always be interesting. And I would say that I believe it has been, but if it's not interesting, at least it has been a challenge. But you can't participate and serve the public like I do without sacrificing certain things with your family, because in any time you're away from your family and you're not doing some of the things that other families do. But it's a sacrifice that has been made, and I'm appreciative that they have been as understanding as they can. My wife is always talking to me when about one thing. And one thing that really baffles her. She said, how can you manage a $47 million budget when you can't even balance the checkbook? When I was in Mansfield, my two kids came to the office one day, and they watched what I was doing and so forth. And after they left, a few days later, somebody asked them what their father did. And Lynn said, he goes to meetings. Andy said, and he talks on the phone all day. They have been very supportive of me. The three of my wife and Andy and Lynn have been very supportive of me. And I hope that I've met their expectations. And for any time that I have not been able to meet the expectations that they have, and haven't been there for them when I should have been, I'm sorry. The second group of people that I would like to talk about are the numerous volunteers in the town of Winchester, because they're the people that I work with considerably. And I don't think that many people understand or appreciate the volunteer effort and what it takes to make this town grow, and why people volunteer for this work is in some ways beyond the comprehension of reasonable people. Because people volunteer their time to then be pillaged and criticized for the effort that they do. And I don't think that people, when they go to the selectmen and they want to criticize an action of the selectmen, if they want to criticize an action of the planning board, if they want to criticize an action of the finance committee, if they want to criticize any action, they don't realize the countless number of volunteer hours that goes into making the decisions that they do, and that they are really here on behalf of everybody in this community. So if the honor is here to me this evening on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, the honor really belongs to everybody that volunteers their time, because they're the ones that make this town what it is. And I think that people should appreciate that, and more often they don't, but they should. because I know the effort that they do, and if I'm there for 5 or 6 hours on an evening, there's a group of between 5 and 15 people that are on committees that are serving this town, and they're serving it well. And if you read the history of Winchester, you understand that this town was built on volunteer efforts. A lot of other communities, there are far more paid people that work for the town. There is not the public participation, but there has been public participation in this town since the day it was incorporated in the middle 1800s. And I think that the town people are missing an opportunity if they don't really appreciate the volunteer effort. The last group that I want to recognize are the Winchester employees. They are the ones, John has mentioned that they're the ones in B team, but they are also the ones that help me do the job. I couldn't be standing in front of this group this evening if I didn't have the support and the dedication from all of the employees, from the department heads to the various levels of employee participation in this town. My job is a lot easier. I am, in some ways, a public perception that I can do all of these things. And I will just stand here right now and say, I am not every man. I am, for example, I am mathematically dyslexic. And I am computer illiterate. And anyone that's been around me knows that that is true, because I have a problem dialing a telephone. I have no problem talking on the phone, but I have problems dialing out.
Push the buttons now, too.
I'm still trying to do this, right? The support that I receive on a daily basis from the immediate staff at the town hall is one that really helps me function. Because as I go to these various meetings and bring these piles of paper or prepare or have a budget book or anything, I couldn't do that if it weren't for a solid group of people that work with me. And I want to publicly acknowledge the efforts of Joan Murphy, Joanne Abdullah, Megan Knight, and Patty Mon. And I also want to acknowledge the support that I received directly from Comptroller Joe Bonner. But the person that I really want to acknowledge is Mark Tuber, the Assistant Town Manager. I can assure you that he is not mathematically dyslexic. He is not computer illiterate. And his wife tells me he knows how to balance a checkbook. The other special relationships that I've had with the town employees over the years are very special to me, because it's not just a employee-employee relationship. There have been numerous times throughout my career where I've had to talk and counsel employees that may have special problems on the job, have special problems in their personal lives, and I am greatly appreciative of the fact that many of these people would come to me and have the confidence that I was going to be able to help them. And I hope that in any of these times that I was able to help them. Well, I'm also very appreciative of many of the times in the employees' lives when I've been asked to participate in some of their social functions where they've had people either it's at a wedding or the birth of a child or whatever. And I'm also appreciative of that, because I know how special those are to everybody. And one of the more special times that I had was when we went to a wedding where the father of the bride was a town employee, where the bride was a town employee, and the groom was a town employee. that was a special time because it was really an all-town wedding. And I'm referring to the wedding of the daughter of the late Dominic Saratori, his daughter Maria, who at that time was working as a dispatcher in the police department, and David Dalton, who was a lieutenant in the fire department. The fact that I was involved in that private moment for the family is one that I will remember, and I appreciate their thinking of me and asking me to participate in that important time. And there are other times when we have had, I remember there was about a year ago, police officer Brett Houlihan, his wife just had twins, and I ran into him downtown, and he was telling me all about the birth of his twins, and he was really beaming. And so I asked what I thought was a very obvious question, because when you have twins, you know, it's double trouble from what I'm told. So I said to Brett, I said, is it difficult to tell them apart? And he said, oh no, he says, one's a boy and one's a girl. I have numerous humorous stories about various town employees, but the one story that I really enjoy telling is about Andy Conley. And anybody that has been to the transfer station knows who Andy is, and knows his sense of humor, and knows the effort that he makes on behalf of operating the transfer station, and it has become more difficult, particularly since we raised the fees and he's got to defend the action of others. But Andy has got a very good sense of humor. And the story that I'm telling it's a true story, and it was relayed to me by Joe Tabby. And about 3 years ago, when we were instituting the new stickers over at the transfer station, Joe was over there helping Andy. And one of the employees at the transfer station brought in this big dish of brownies. And it was in the little office where they were handing out the stickers. And this woman came in and she was filling out her application, and Andy said to her, he said, well, would you like a brownie? And she said, oh, sure, you know. So she took it, and it was so good, she just wolfed it down, and Andy said, well, have another one. And the woman said, these are great. Where did you get them? And Andy said, well, ma'am, one of the fringe benefits of this job, you never know what you're going to get off the belt. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank everybody that participated here tonight, because it's been a very special night for myself and for my family, and I thank everybody for coming, and I really appreciate this honor, and it's an evening that I will always remember. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. And Chad and his family, for those that haven't had a chance to say hello and would like to stop by, are going to stay here for a few minutes. Thank you very much for coming and being such a good audience. Thank you.